Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Ames Public Library in person and virtually for Genealogy Plus, a program brought to you through a partnership with Ames Public Library and the Story County Genealogical Society. The library's mission is to connect you to the world of ideas, which we do through diverse and inclusive resources and programming like today's event. For those of you with us in person, the room is equipped with an induction loop for the benefit of hearing aid users. To use that, please switch your hearing aid to T. For those of you with us virtually, your microphones will be muted during the presentation, so please submit any questions you have via the chat function, which you can find a link to at the bottom of your screen. And I will be monitoring the chat during the presentation to make sure your questions get shared at the appropriate time. If you get bumped out of the Zoom meeting, please just follow that original link back and you can get right back in. Live captioning is enabled on Zoom, so if you're not seeing captions, you can turn them on by clicking the live transcript caption button in the Zoom menu bar. For everyone, today's session is being recorded and will be posted to the Ames Public Library YouTube channel after the event. And we will have time for questions at the end. So if you're on Zoom, as I said, your questions will be read out by me. But if you're with us in the room, I will come around with a microphone so everyone can hear your question. And with that, I will introduce Dick Cooper, our presenter for the day.
Thank you, Megan. Okay, you can take off your coat. Okay, this seminar, presentation, whatever, is on free or nearly free genealogical websites. Picking out the ones that are free is about a week's job. And there are some that are free out there, but not all of them. I'm not an expert in finding free websites or tutorials, or even nearly free websites. But I hope this will, with the handout, I hope this will give you a start or some help in that direction. There are many genealogical websites that show their advertising as having a large number of records, which many times they do. And we're talking up in the millions many times, such as Ancestry or Family Search and many, many other websites. These same websites may also charge a fee for the use of their records, whether it be searching for the records or you request a certain record and they send it to you, whatever, you're probably going to pay for it. Generally, when you go to these websites, the prices to use their information is at the beginning of the website, like the major ones that we know about, and have probably explored. You put in your search criteria, such as a surname or first name and surname or something like that, and they'll come up with something like, we found 850,000 records or whatever the figure is. You click on that and then they'll take you to the price they're going to charge you for 6 months, a year, whatever the figure is. Sometimes you'll even be asked to give personal information. Either way is a tip-off that it's not a free website. Sometimes they'll order or they'll offer 14 days or a week, a month, some period of time. But be careful, because if you sign up for that, you'll probably get automatically billed at the end of the, say, month. They'll automatically bill you at the end of that month. They're pretty good about, generally, I've found they're pretty good about refunding your money, but it's just a matter of having to give them a call and get to the right person and get it all done. That's to me a waste of time, but sometimes it's necessary. And by the way, the handouts for today are over there on the table. And most of them will be on the website. They're under the Story County genealogical website under handouts. And I think our webmaster probably put my name down there as she's smiling. And these are the 5 most popular websites for 2024. Some are free, some are not, as you can see. Ancestry, which we know is not free for the standard application. But you can come to the Ames Public Library and Mary, Nancy, I think free at the library. Is that correct? Okay, it's free at the library. So you might think about doing that. My Heritage is not free. Archives is not free. Family Search, which is my favorite one, is free. And it's one of the largest next to Ancestry on the internet. Find My Past is not free. US Gen Web is free. And these slides will be on the Story County website. Right, Mary? Okay. They're already on there, as a matter of fact. A gentleman by the name of Mark McDermott has created a list of websites, some free, some not free, but a list that genealogists, excuse me, can refer to, and if they want to take part in a website, they can do it. If not, they can still do it. The Chronicling America, that's part of the Library of Congress, isn't it, Mary? Okay. But Chronicling America, which is on the left-hand column, about halfway down, is mostly newspapers, if I'm not mistaken. Allen County Public Library is one of the many, 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 many libraries in this country, including the Ames Public Library, that have genealogy information. I'm not sure of the exact method or way to go about getting information from the Allen County Public Library, but it's fabulous. It's huge. And I was considering taking a 2-day trip this summer and going to the Allen County Public Library, but I'm bound to go to Lee County, which is down in the southeast corner of the state, and Keokuk, Fort Madison, Donaldson, and places that my family grew up and became residents and so on. Find a Grave is one of my favorites. Ellis Island was preceded by Castle. What is it? Castle Garden. Garden. Castle Garden. Thank you. And then it became Ellis Island for passengers and people coming into the United States. Yeah, there's Castle Garden, second one down in the right-hand column. Fulton History, that's a good one. David Ramsey's Historical Maps, a very good one. Sanborn Maps, and both of those are very, very well-known map websites. And Google Books, that has about everything in it you can think of. There's Internet Archive again. Reclaim Your Records. This is very interesting, I found. A very interesting website in the fact that Reclaim Your Records, the people at this website, they go out and search many, many places, and they find records that other websites may not have claimed. And they'll put them on these records on their website so they're there for people to claim. And there's all kinds of websites for different nationalities, Jewish Gen, Afrogenius, an interesting, Dead Fred. I didn't even go to that website. I have no idea what it is, but is it pretty good, Mary, Nancy?
It's for photographs that people have seen.
Oh, it's for photographs. Okay. New York Public Library, there's another huge public library in addition to Ames Public Library. Freedmen's Bureau, WorldCat.org has library contents. I don't think they have everybody's or every library's content, but they have a lot of library contents. Now we come to other resources. Now, this is where you have to put your thinking cap on. I think everybody pretty much knows the websites that we're all familiar with. Fold 3, which is military mostly, Ancestry, even Family Search, which is a free one. But there are other resources as well. Right here in Ames Public Library. And you have libraries of every kind, museums, funeral homes. You can read the list there. Cemeteries. Believe it or not, a cemetery will give you some genealogical information besides birth date, death dates, who's buried there. On the back of the stone, there may be a saying. It's probably too small for an obituary, but there's a saying on the back generally. So don't forget to look at the backside of a marker. Family interviews is very interesting. Right now, with the death of my grandparents and parents on both sides, I am the matriarch of the family. I don't know if matriarch is a correct term. I don't either, but I'm the oldest one in the family. And I've written down in my genealogy pretty much everything I think I know. But my sister, she knows a lot too. But anyway, remember that when you're doing family interviews, if you have the opportunity and are lucky enough to interview, let's just pick a number, pick a name. Let's say you're interviewing your grandmother. Well, your grandmother might get started on a certain story that happened when she was just about yay high. But remember one thing, your grandmother might not remember all the details as they happened. So you have to take what your grandmother or whoever the ancestor is, you have to take what they're saying with a grain of salt, to coin a phrase. You might want to think about that, or what they said, record everything, but think about what they said, and maybe even look up on the internet or someplace some information concerning that story and see if it's right or wrong. Another one, you've got death indexes, very helpful. There's not much information on them except death. And I think birth is on them too. But they are helpful in getting the right information for your genealogy. Archive.org is very interesting. Civil War soldier records. A little story. My father must have realized that at some date I would be interested in genealogy because he gave me Civil War records, that is, the daily logs and various other records from his grandfather who was born in Missouri, up in northwest Missouri. And I think at some point in his life, he had a vegetable garden, and he did a lot of trucking for vegetables out of that garden to a place in I'm guessing Keokuk, but I don't know, a place that he could get rid of the vegetables and get money for them. But my dad took all of his Civil War records. They're from the Civil War. And his grandfather came across into Iowa from Missouri and helped to create one of the largest contributions to the Civil War. And that's out of Iowa. But I've got a bunch of those records. And on there is included his death date. It's the only place I can find it so far. Is on, and who the physician was that performed that death, that certifying that he died. And it's got his kids on there too. And anything you can think of is important. Anything. And I do mean anything. And then bottom of the list, most important, probably one of the most important items is the census records. Census records are very, very readily available. All you have to do is just go into the internet somewhere and search census records. If you want census records for 1950, which just became available, I think, about a year ago, there are places that have got them. If you want them for 1840, there are places that have them. But be careful, because census records, when they began in, I believe, 1790, they're every 10 years, and the federal census records are every 10 years. And from the beginning in I believe, 1780 or 1790, they weren't very detailed at all. And if you look up like 1800 or something like that, you'll see what I'm talking about. They're not very detailed. But then they started in 1840, I think, something like that, of putting more detail on, in other words, names, where they lived, whether they were, what relation to the head of the household there was, whether there was a son, daughter, whether the head of the household or someone living in that house was widowed and had a W or whatever. There's designation on those websites. And that's I want to say 1840 through today. And with the more websites on census that you get, there's a little bit more information. They don't have just that information. There's a lot of information on there. Some census have parents' names, when they were born, and where they were born at. They also have occupation of the, for instance, the head of the household, which in those days, no offense, ladies, but in those days was generally the man of the household. I see that, Sandy. But that's just the way it was. They were the head of the household, and everyone else was either M for married, W for widowed, D for daughter, S for son, or some other relation to the head of the household. But the head plus everybody else in the census listing, their occupation was listed. I mean, some households had kids 19, 20 years old. They had an occupation too, because they were put to work, bring money in for the household. And then they would have other information like the size of their farm, or if they owned or rented, or various other things. So census are very, very popular and very, very interesting to read. Also, on other resources, you've got, as you can read, courthouses, state museums, which we are lucky to have enough to have one in Des Moines. Ames Public Library, which has Ancestry Library Edition, Heritage Quest Online, Family Search Affiliate Library, Ames Tribune Digital Archive, which is for newspapers, and many other genealogical items such as directories, school annuals, and so on. Now, some of the things like directories and school annuals are located in the, what's the name of that room, Megan? Heritage Room, thank you. Which is, if you're on the second level, you're over that way. The Heritage Room makes you walk this way and that way. So it's past the meeting rooms that we normally meet in. But there's a lot of information in there, and I think there's getting to be more and more all the time. To read how to access each of the ones I read off, like the Ancestry Library Edition, Heritage Quest, and so on, I think there's information online as to how to do that. Some you can access by bringing your computer to the library. Others you can access from home through the internet library access. Again, you have other nationalities, African and Native American genealogy, internet search for name. That's one thing a lot of people overlook. Google and Facebook. If you just type in the name Cooper, you're going to get a lot of answers, a lot of them. Now, keep in mind the name Cooper, which is my surname. The name Cooper also will bring up many, many cask and barrel makers, because that was a occupational name in the, I'll say, 1700s, 1800s, even into the 1900s. So you might get some conflicting family names and some other barrel makers or so on. There's Canadian genealogy, capital letters TONI, I think is the way you search for that. Once again, social media, a genealogy for European descents, which generally fall under passenger lists. And once again, census records. I can't say enough about census records. I decided early on I would go get all the census records I could, and I got a lot of information off of it. I had 3-inch binders full of census records. And I'm not done yet. I'm going to swerve off to something else besides census, because I'm kind of tired of that for a while. But once I get my office straightened away, which good luck, I'll go back to something else. Now, I hope I've directed people to how to get free and nearly free websites and find out if they're free or not. They'll all tell you that they want you to put your family tree on their website. When I started my genealogy, I listened to Dennis Allen, and he turned me on to Roots Magic. Now, not everybody has Roots Magic. I heard some other names thrown around here before the presentation started. I think Family Tree is one. Ancestry is another one. But there are many, many websites that have room for a family tree, and they encourage you to put your family tree on there. I have Roots Magic because I'm paranoid. And I really am. Roots Magic calls for a lot of information, some of which I've figured out by using their book, their manual, but I'm still working on some of the rest of it. The reason I have Roots Magic is because it's on my computer at my house. And if someone decides to go in to my website or to my family tree, pardon me, and if it's on someone other than Roots Magic, they may be able to change it, unbeknownst to me. And that's not a pretty picture, if you ask me. Or the company may just fold up and go under, belly up, whatever you want to call it, in which case your website is lost many times. And that's why I have my website on Roots Magic. The website addresses that I've shown may be preceded by a www, which is World Wide Web, or they may not be. You just have to tinker around with the website name a little bit, and that goes at the top of the page where the website address normally appears. Another website that I use quite a bit is Find a Page. Oh, pardon me, Find a Grave. Now, Find a Grave is a free website, mostly. But Find a Grave, I find very useful because I can go in there and search for my family or whoever I want to. And when I search for, let's say, Joseph Cooper, and I find his grave, or maybe it's Joseph Nathaniel. Anyway, when I find his grave, I found it already. And his grave, he is buried in the military cemetery in Keokuk. I know that for a fact. I have a picture of it. But Find a Grave is generally a free website. You can search for people, anybody you want, and there are many, many criteria that you can put in the website, such as male or female, if they were a sister or aunt or grandmother or whatever. There's many criteria that you can put in there before you search. And you can also put in there the name of the cemetery, if you know that. I have both my parents' names and I know the cemetery they're buried in. The thing I do is find a grave, and this I can do with Roots Magic, maybe other websites as well, or maybe other, what do I want to say, maybe other family trees and other websites as well. When I find a grave, I will put the number of the person, which is a unique number. No one else in Find a Grave has that number. And then if there's any information such as a history of the person or obituary or whatever it may be, I'll copy that and put that in Find a Grave, pardon me, in Roots Magic also. They're two separate line items. One is the number and the second one is the information. And I can access that anytime I want to. Anytime. Now, Find a Grave also asks you to sign in, but it's for free. When you sign in to their website, you sign in to create a online website, or probably online cemetery. And there's one or two other features that come along with that. But you have to sign in for free. It's free. They don't ask for personal information or credit card, anything. It's free. And the website that I really like, which is free, I like that word, free, is Family Search and Family Search Wiki. Now, for those who have attended some of the online or in-person seminars here, or pardon me, presentations, you've heard Annette and Jim Andrade from the Family Search Library here in Ames give presentations. And I have to say, in all defense to them, they do a fine job, but there's no way they can talk about everything on Family Search and Family Search Wiki. The Family Search Wiki, I have to admit, I didn't really do much with the Family Search Wiki until just recently. And in researching for this presentation, I was amazed at the amount of information that's on there. It lets you go to the particular state you're looking for one thing. And in small print, there's all kinds of options that are available. In addition to going to familysearch.org, there are all kinds of options that are available for you to do on the Family Search Wiki. Am I correct, Nancy? And while I'm talking about Family Search, you'll also find that there's a familysearch.com, which isn't as extensive and broad-ranged as the familysearch.org, which is second in size only to Ancestry. I think there's a little battle there for which is a bigger one. But anyway, familysearch.com is interesting. So you might try that one out. Now, this has been in no way and by no means a total list of the free or nearly free websites. In your searches, you will find this page and this page. These are all on the Story County Genealogical website. What you won't find on the genealogy team, or the group website, is the list of right there. Checklist of sources searched. Now, this is intended for the name of an individual at the top, birth date, place of birth, and spouse or partner. Or when you're searching for more information on an individual. And let me tell you, those are not the same columns. They are different columns. Everything, everything you can think of, plus more, is on there. They've got under other sources, immigrant aid societies, local historians, memorials, which is on the Find the Grave website, memorials. And those are the ones, the numbers that are maybe 8-digit or however high the volunteers have done the graves. Those are unique to each person buried there. Perpetual Care Fund for Cemetery Plot, which leads me to funeral homes. Don't ignore funeral homes. They're a wonderful source, providing you can get to the information. They're a wonderful source of information. And if you latch on the right ones, you'll even find their obituaries for certain people on websites. Maybe some of you have already found obituaries for certain people on websites. Here's a listing for poll tax records. I found a record again down in Lee County. It showed how certain people voted Democrat or Republican. This was in the newspaper. So if you ever want some interesting reading, read your local newspaper. Like I was born in Wright County, and Clarion is the courthouse, where the courthouse is located. Well, Clarion has had about 5 or 6 newspapers over the years, and you go to any one of the Clarion papers, which are online, as a matter of fact, they're online, and they're free. If you go to any one of the Clarion papers and go to the section entitled Galt, G-A-L-T, it's a little town about that big. It's not very big. It's even smaller now. And someone knows where Galt is. Okay, good. My grandfather was the mayor of Galt for 2 terms. And there used to be an elevator there, 2 or 3 grocery stores, a bank, and a church, which is now just a hole in the ground, a school, and Lord only knows what else used to be there. But now all there is, I think it's the bricks that surround the safe that used to be in the bank. The safe is still there, I believe. I'm sure there's nothing in it, but that's the only thing there. But if you go to Galt in the Clarion newspaper, you'll find some very interesting reading. They have Galt, Rowan, Dow's, many other small towns that were around. And I'm sorry to say, today, when I read some of those newspapers, I can relate to I know the people that are in there. At my age, I know the people that are in there. Um, Real estate tax records. These are all on the internet. These are all on the internet. Land grants, deeds, loans that the bank made, mortgages, subpoenas, marriage, divorce. Marriage, of course, is included in the main records, but as well as death and birth, marriage, and death. Here we go with farm records. Funeral card folders, genealogy and family history records and books. You might find your own family listed in the library. Okay, in summary, the Story County Genealogical Society has many handouts. And if you go on the website, which is not limited to members, if you go on the website, under handouts on the left-hand column, click on there, and you'll see a whole page of handouts. A lot of information that is available to members and non-members, both, on our website. And if you type in Story Genes or Story County Genealogical Society, either one is going to come up first on the list. I think somebody has made it that way. So just remember, these under checklist of sources searched, there are many, I'll hold it up again, many pieces of information that you may not even think of searching. Awards, membership records, under membership records, certificates, employment records, such as pensions or severance papers, things like that. So, you know, get your mind working and do the searching. Anything you can think of. The worst the internet will do is tell you you can't find it. And it very seldom does that. Now, are there any questions? Hopefully I've got some answers.
I will come around with a microphone if you have a question. And if you're on Zoom and have a question, please put it in the chat.
Megan has the microphone, the moving microphone.
I would add that the Find My Past and Heritage or My Heritage also have some free website or from some free records. And you can also search them even though without a subscription. So you would be able to see if they do in fact have the records. And then sometimes if it's on Ancestry, you could come to the library and use the free library edition here, but you can also always search those and see if perhaps there are other places to find the records.
And I think in Ancestry, if you've done their DNA, which I have, I think access through the DNA website is a free website. Is that correct, Mary?
You can see part of it.
Part of it. Yeah, part of the records. Part of the records is better than none. Anybody else have any questions? Renee?
So when I was in Illinois, I ran across something. It was like a agricultural census. And I wondered if you were familiar with those. It was, I don't know if it was a state thing there in Illinois or whether it's more common, but there's a lot of good information in the agricultural census for, ancestors that you have that were farmers. Give you a lot of detailed information, such as the number of milk cows they have and acres and that sort of thing, where it was located. So I don't know if you were familiar with that at all.
I'm familiar a little bit in the fact that it exists.
Okay.
Here again, I think if you go on the internet and search agricultural census records,
Okay.
you might find your answer.
Sure.
Mary, Nancy, do you know where the agricultural records are that are more extensive than the regular census?
Ancestry has a possibly family search. I have to look into.
Mhm.
Yeah, they're Family Search or Ancestry, one or the other would probably have that.
Okay. Also, I just wanted to put in a plug for a website called, maybe you mentioned this before I got here, but newspaperarchives.com. It's a wonderful free website for local newspapers, even small town newspapers. There's hundreds of different newspapers on this site. Going way back as to the beginning of these newspapers. And you can search by name for ancestors that you know and find a lot of information, obituaries, births, deaths, divorce records, arrest records, little news tidbits, these little small time local newspapers like to put in.
You can also find reading of wills and things like that too.
Yeah.
I have a newspaper.com
Okay.
subscription.
Okay.
And my problem is I get tied up if I'm doing one thing and I go on newspapers.com, I get tied up reading newspapers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's so darn interesting.
Oh, yeah.
It's very interesting.
Yeah.
And I mean, if someone has the time to do that, you can, but I don't.
Yeah, you can really go down a rabbit hole on those. So
That's right. That's right. And there might be other information involved in newspapers.com. Like obituaries, like I said, agricultural information or lots of land, assessor information, that type of thing. You just never know what's going to pop up.
that's right. Little bits of news, these little local newspapers like to throw in a lot of little funny articles just to fill out their pages that really aren't really newsworthy, but sometimes you can find some information even there.
I thought I found one of my ancestors had been put in jail, found guilty of a crime and put in jail. And it was in like eastern Nebraska. Well, that's close, And I got to looking closer and come to find out there was a 10-year difference in date between, age date. So that wasn't true. And then I went further investigation and found out where he'd been. That wasn't true either. So do I have any black sheep in the family? Probably. I just haven't found them yet. Any other questions anybody has? That's a good question about newspaper.com though. It's very interesting.
All right, well, let's thank Dick for his time, and we hope to see you all next month at Genealogy Plus, where we'll be discussing, oh, I thought I knew. Mary, what's next month's Genealogy Plus topic? Dennis Allen and cemetery records, which Dick talked a lot about. So if you want to learn more about cemetery records, join us next month.
If anybody has a chance to see Dennis, thank you. if anyone has a chance to come to the Genealogy Plus and see Dennis and listen to him, please do it. He's very good. And he's not going to talk about anything unless he knows quite a bit about it. Right, Gwinnett? Thank you for attending.